You're listening to the Ordinary Joe's podcast with Joe D and Eric B. Ordinary Joe's podcast.
All right, we are back. This time we're going to finish the last, 6 episodes of The Last of Us. Was there 6 that we missed out that we didn't finish? We're going to finish that up and be patient with us because we finished this a while back. So we're going to sit here and we're going to try our best to remember what we watched. But it's been a while. Sorry. We were back.
We'll get the key points out. We'll make sure of that.
We'll make sure we watch or we describe what we remember, but we'll tell you. I'll tell you how I feel at the end. Joe will tell us how he feels at the end, and then hopefully we'll see if there's going to be a part 2 or season 2. But we'll start from there. Let's go ahead and get this started, man. I am Eric B,
and I'm Joe Mama, and we are the Ordinary Joes. That's it. I am gonna make something different up every episode.
You know what? I'm gonna record that, and every time Joe texts me, it's just gonna say, "I'm Joe Mama." I am Joe Mama. I like that one. Joe Mama, go ahead and get us started.
Let's go. Yeah, man. So, Last of Us. I think we, like you said, Eric said, we left off episode 3. I actually want to bounce back to that really quickly because I went back. Because Eric and I, we both said we haven't played the game at all, so there's a lot of things about the show and the game I don't know. So I went back to look at the 2 characters, Frank and Bill, and episode 3. In a way, the whole episode was kind of like an Easter egg.
Yeah.
Because we don't see Frank at all in the game, and for the brief time when you see Bill. All he does is mentions I had a partner, and that's pretty much it. And then I guess later on you find out that Frank didn't like how all the survivalist rules that Bill had, and he was too strict, and so he decided to take off and leave. And in the process, when he did, he stole some supplies. He left, and he got bit by what are they calling them? I'm not even sure. Clickers. He got bit by a clicker. Infected. Yeah. And he didn't want to go out like that. And so then he kills himself. So, I mean, that just, the reason why I want to go back to that is just to, again, add on to the points that we spoke about last time of like how good the writing is on this show, where they took a brief mention of 2 characters in the game and change the story a little bit and embellish on it, and ends up being one of the best episodes of the whole series. So I just want to bring that up really quick because I thought that was like really cool.
I would piggyback. I'm gonna let you finish. I'm gonna piggyback. I'm gonna say it's my favorite episode throughout the whole series. So
really,
yeah. I'll tell you mine, but I just wanted to bring that up. That was my favorite episode throughout the whole series.
Yeah. I mean, that was all I really had on that. I just thought it's so cool just to see how, because that's not always done well, right? I mean, we've seen it done. We talk about it all the time, and I'm going to continue to compare it to Resident Evil only because the game is similar and the story not really similar, but you're dealing with this kind of post zombie apocalyptic world, and you're trying to figure stuff out. So I like to compare the two, and the Resident Evil, in my opinion, movie was done so horribly because of the writing, and it had potential, and Last of Us don't have that issue from what I'm seeing as far as like actual fans of the game who've played it. Everyone seems to really like the way they're going with it, and shout outs to HBO. They always do good content.
Let's come back to that towards the end, because I have a question about what video game made movie is your favorite. So we'll come back to that towards the end. We'll go through all video games. It doesn't have to be zombie movies either.
Yeah, sure. We're now episode 4, and I'm gonna try to remember this as best as I can. But this is when they find that town. Is that right?
Yeah. They leave. Was it? I forget. Bill and Frank's place.
Yeah.
They're in the car, and then they found, I don't, what are they, Atlanta? I forget what city they're in.
I think so. I don't even know. Do they mention where
Yeah,
it's
they did
set?
mention where it was, but
Okay.
it's I forget what it was. But yeah, they found that little town, and they ended up getting stuck there for a while.
Yeah. And this brings me to like, I always like to put myself in the position of characters when I'm watching a movie and any kind of movie.
Always.
Right. And it's like, what what's going through their mind when they come up against this town, right? Because one of the running themes in this show is you have all these monsters running around, killing, biting, and infecting people. But more often than not, the scarier monster are the humans, right? The people who are
Always.
alive and kind of what they do
Always.
to each other. So, you come up to this town and what do what's going through your mind? If you're part of them, like, fuck, you know what I mean? Is this savior? Is this help? Or are we about to get fucking annihilated?
I'm about to die. Exactly. They obviously didn't watch any of the Walking Dead episodes in this game.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts on how the show is going from that point after after we see Bill and Ted, or Bill and Frank, excuse me.
Yeah, that's how bad it is. I called them Henry and Bill, and they weren't even. Henry was a character after. But no, I liked it. I liked it, and I like the fact, and I think I told this to you guys on our last podcast when we talked about The Last of Us. There's certain groups that watch this, and me and Joe falls in that category of we've never played the video game, so we like it. And I talked about how if you watch a movie and never play the video game, you're not going to always go back to, well, that's not how the game is. Because when I watched the movie Uncharted, I felt the same way. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. But the video game nerds, even with this game, they were like, oh man, this is stupid. The writers had to change areas, or they had to go into they want, like, episode 2 was really like 4 hours into the game or 5 hours into the game. They're like, oh no, that's not the right spot.
Right.
So the writers had to adjust, right? So for me, who never played the video game, I liked everything about it. It was a foolproof story. All they had to do was go to the video game and just put it out in live action. So I love how they did all that. And then the episode, was it episode 4? Is that what it was? Episode 4. It was called Please Hold My Hand. They do get stuck in this town, And what Joe said, how would I feel if I drove into this town? See, I'd be that guy that'd be like, no, that's a big city. Let's stay towards the backcountry. And that's what I would have done. And Joel, being the smart guy that he is, I thought he was going to do that. But I guess the map, even in the video game, the map showed them they had to go through this town to get to, they were trying to get to the Fireflies because they were trying to get Ellie the vaccine. I never would have went there. I would have been like, yep, I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how much gas we're taking. And they did this towards the last couple episodes. Remember when they were like, it's a 5-mile hike to the university. I guess we have to hike. Because to me, that's when you're in the wilderness and you're out there, it's a lot safer than being in the big city.
Right.
Because you
have places.
Yeah, you're right. You don't know what's there. You don't know if the zombies or the infected clickers are there, or if you don't know if these humans, who we all know after watching all these apocalypse movie, humans don't have good intentions.
Nope.
No matter
never do.
what you say, they never have good intentions. So I would have detoured.
Yeah. Same here.
That's just me.
Yeah, I'm with you, just because like you said, we've seen it so many times in these movies, and especially now you get the feeling right away that, like, they're starting Joel and what's her name? Ellie. You get the feeling that they're starting to get closer. They're starting to bond. He really cares for her, and it's evident as each episode goes on, and vice versa. And so it's like, why would you risk getting her hurt, especially knowing how important she is, right? Because we know she's been bit. She has some sort of immunity to it. So she could possibly save,
Yeah. The world.
humankind. So
Yeah.
it's like, why risk it? And then, of course, we see what happens, right?
Yeah.
Right away, they're in that store, and there's somebody, and it's just like in all the horror movies where it's like, you always yelling at that person, don't open that
Don't
door.
go
It's like
there.
that's the same thing. You're like, why? And
Yeah.
because you instantly know something's gonna happen. The music changes,
Yeah.
and one other thing that was getting to me is like they were so damn loud when
Yeah.
they were searching for stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they're making noise, kicking stuff, and I'm like, bro, like these things can hear you. So I right away thought we were gonna get clickers, but
Yeah.
instead we got humans, which we
Humans.
know
Which
are way
is
worse.
which is worse. I mean, at least with zombies, any zombie movie, it's a quick death. You
Mhm.
might lay there for a minute watching them eat your intestines, but
Right.
you're gonna die. With humans, they give you that mind fuck for like,
Yeah.
it's like even in this episode, they were trying to look for this dude Henry, and they're like, we'll spare you if you bring us Henry. And if you guys don't know, Henry was one of the rebellions who ends up turning in one of the leaders' brother. They end up killing the brother. Now Sam and Henry's on the run. Sam's the little deaf brother who Henry's trying to protect, and he's like, hey, the only way your brother can be saved is this medicine, and if you need this medicine, you got to turn in the resistance leader. So he does. I mean, I think in this episode, so they're lost in the town, they're trying to find anything. That episode ends with Sam with a gun in front of Joel's face, because they find their way to the top. And we go to episode 5, Endure and Survive, where they finally meet Henry and Sam. And I would have done the same thing Henry would have done. If it was my family, or if it was my family member, if it was my dad, my son, my brother, and he needed a certain medication to live, and the only way to do it was to turn in Joe, I would have done it.
Yeah.
Especially if me and Joe aren't friends, and I don't have any ties with Joe. Joe just, I'm using Joe as an example. Of course, he wasn't there. But if Joe was the one that was like, he's the resistance, we got to fight Fedra, we got to do all this, and I have no allegiance to him whatsoever, like, yeah, here he is, man. He's going to be here at 3:00 taking a piss. Go get him.
Yeah.
I would have done it.
No, definitely. I'm with you, because that's one of the scariest things. If you think about being in that position of, it's the end of the world. What if you're by yourself?
Yeah.
What if you don't have anyone? Say you lost all your friends and family. Like, who do you trust?
Yeah.
Because everyone at this point has an agenda, is trying to save their own ass. Even if you find people that are helpful, or some community, you just never know, because there may be that person with the power trip.
Yeah.
They may be, it's just, you always have to constantly watch your back, and then at the same time worry about zombies, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's why these zombie apocalypse shows or movies, like, I can only do one every like 2 or 3 years, because it just
it gives me anxiety.
takes so much out of you.
Yeah. We talked about this in the last one. That's why I stopped watching Walking Dead, because one, it got boring. 2, it was like, come on, guys. You guys gone through how many seasons of the same thing, and you're still trusting people?
It's like, stop.
Quit it.
Now, do you remember, I believe it was episode 4, and I'm just going to jump back real quick, where there was that guy that they were fighting in the store, and Joel and him were fighting.
Yeah.
And Ellie comes up behind him and shoots him. Yeah. But he doesn't die.
Yeah.
Right. And then he right away starts like copping pleas, and he's like, please. And he tries to give him this knife as just like as a gift, or as a token, like bartering, like, please don't kill me, take this cool ass knife. And he makes Ellie go into the other room, and we don't. What's cool about the show is like, it's graphic, but it's not.
Yeah.
They're very tactful in how they show things, because sometimes you don't need to see it for it to really be as bad or resonate. And this was one of those scenes, because he could have easily just shot the guy and put him out of his misery, but no, instead he takes the knife that he offered as a cop, as a plea, and he takes that and stabs him with it. And we hear him stabbing with it, I'm assuming to save ammo. And Ellie is on the other side like, fuck. Like Like,
Damn it.
imagine what she's going through because you trust this guy. He's kind of your savior. He's like your dad figure. You don't have anyone, and
Yeah.
you hear him, fucking murdering this guy. Mind you, he's doing it for you,
Yeah.
to save you.
To
But
save you.
it's just like it's also for me shows the amazing range that Pedro Pascal
Oh
has
yeah.
because he shows you how this character Joel has this soft side for this girl that he's transporting and originally was just a mission
Yeah.
and now it's become more than that, but he still has that fucking deathly psychopathic side that is the reason why he's been able to survive so long. So that just that kind of juxtaposition that he's got with that character I think is really cool and really good.
I mean, that if with what everything that he's went through, and for you guys who didn't follow the movie, he loses his daughter in the first episode, and he kind of goes through the whole I don't give a fuck about anything anymore. So he's trying every day to survive. So for him killing someone, it's either him or me. It's pretty much his attitude that he has. And he has that one job. Let me get Ellie to the Fireflies so I can go about my business and find my brother. And if I have to kill a bunch of fuckers on the way and clickers, then I will. So that's what he does. And it kind of shows us that if the world did end, can we be that notorious? Can we be, and I think I brought this up to you. And the last one was, I think I could only get like this if someone messes with my family. That's it.
Yeah.
I'll end up that Vin Diesel character, like, no one messes with my family.
Yeah.
I think that's what will end up happening to me. But just to kill because somebody's hungry, you have to do something to me or to us for me to get that crazy. And Joel's just a different character, man. He's the perfect person to play this role.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. He's pretty badass. I mean, I love it so far. And real quick, you touched on Henry and Sam and what Henry did for his family. Again, these are one of those things like, you never know what you're gonna do until you're put in that position.
Yeah.
And Henry, he loves his brother, he's taking care of his brother, but he knows that he just doesn't have it in him to kill someone.
Yeah.
And this is what he kind of proposes to Joel, like, hey, look, I know this town. I know how to get where you need to go. Yeah. But I can't do it alone. Like, I'm not a killer. I need your help.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he just sees it in Joel or just, but he knows this guy, like, because Joel's, he just emits this kind of badassness, right? Yeah. Like through the whole show, he's just like, you have Ellie who's making all these jokes and just trying to be funny, and he's just real stoic and like about business. So it's like Henry sees him's like, look, man, we could go a lot farther together as a team. Like, please,
just help.
But that's a huge leap of faith, especially like we were just talking about. You can't trust people.
Yeah,
you have your little brothers, just you guys, but you're trusting this guy not to freaking turn around and kill you and help you out. So.
But I think what I like about that part is the first time Henry sees Joel, he actually watched Joel kill that guy, the one you're talking about. Right. So he's peeking from a window and he sees Joel like tell Ellie to go away. He sees Ellie walk into the other room, and then he sees Joel, I don't know, cut the guy's throat. What we don't see in that episode, Henry sees with his eyes. So I think that's where Henry's like, okay, wait, this guy's killing, the rebellion. I'm calling them the rebellion because I forget what their name was. So I think he said, okay, if he doesn't like them, I just have to have him trust me.
Yeah.
So I think that's where Henry did the whole, okay, I trust you. You got to trust me, and we'll find our way out of here.
Yeah.
And they almost did. They almost found their way out.
Yeah, they did. And shout out to, I believe his name is Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Johnson, sorry.
Jackson's the next quarterback.
Henry. He also plays Kofi in Your Honor. I don't know if you've seen that show yet with Bryan Cranston. It does an amazing job, and he does a great job here too. Just because you see the fear in him. He's trying to be brave. He's trying to take care of his little brother, but it's just so hard because it's like, dude, what's going on there after me? Like, help.
Yeah. I mean, we're jumping all over, but that one
Mhm.
episode where that one lady, I forget what the lady's character's name is. I've been trying to look her up.
Mm.
Kathleen. Her name is Kathleen.
Kathleen.
She's after Henry because she believes Henry is the one that killed her brother, but Henry
Mhm.
didn't kill the brother. It was Fedra that killed the brother, and Henry's
Mhm.
trying to say that. So Kathleen's trying to kill Henry and Sam, and trying to say, and this whole episode, Kathleen is after Henry and now after Joel because they know Joel's the one that killed that other guy.
Mhm.
Which to me, kind of like, okay, how many? I mean, this is exactly what you'll find in these towns is these type of people that's just going to be
Mhm.
like, I'm the leader, listen to me, or you'll die, kind
Yep.
of thing.
Yep.
Which I guess that's what we have to look out for in a
Mhm.
zombie apocalypse or any apocalypse. But yeah, so the whole movie or the whole episode, Kathleen's trying to find them, and she's so twisted in trying to kill them that she forgets that there's infected, that this city buried underground, and infected, when you bury them underground, they're hungry. They want to come
Mhm.
out and they'll find a way out. Um, so at the end of this episode, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
And we finally see a bloater that doesn't bloat.
Yeah, I think it's sick too the way they wrote in how all of the clickers are connected somehow. Like
Yeah.
there's just this kind of, I don't know, nervous system thing where almost like ants or something,
Yeah.
or insects that can notify each other of something. And so that's what makes it scary, because it's not like other zombie movies where you may just run across a patch of zombies and you got to take them out and then you're good for a while.
Yeah.
This could easily get out of hand because they're all sending off signals. Hey, we got food here. There's something here. But yeah, that scene where you see that bloater or whatever is just emerge out of the ground, and you're like, holy shit.
Like,
And if I had to say, if I had one thing about the show that maybe I would have changed, or that wasn't the greatest, was that I would have loved to see more of the clickers
yeah.
or the zombies. I feel like you don't
Let's
see
save
them
that
as
for the
much.
let's save that towards the end, because I'm going to ask you
Mhm.
what you like about this and what you didn't like about this. So
Right,
let's
right.
save all that towards the end. Let's
Mhm.
so that way it's just one clean. I don't want to. I
Yeah.
want to hear what your thoughts are, but I also
Mhm.
want to save all that towards the end because there's a
Yeah.
lot that I didn't like about this. So, and there's a lot that I did like about this. But yeah, let's
Yeah.
save all that towards the end.
Yeah.
But I agree with you, man. I agree with you on that one. I mean, this video game, and this is where a the difference between me and you, and then the video game people. I mean,
Mhm.
the video game nerds are like, this is stupid because in this episode they were supposed to be, this was supposed to be introduced and this was supposed to be.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's why I was like, okay, I kind of get it, but at the
Mhm.
same time, I love the storyline that we go from episode 1 where Pedro Pascal just or Joel just doesn't give a fuck.
Mhm.
And to him, remember he said to him at the end, in the beginning, Ellie's just baggage. She's just
Yeah.
baggage.
Yeah.
But then we find out towards the end, after episode 8, she's more than just baggage now.
Right.
Now he's
Right.
trying
Right.
to feel and then my question to you is, I'm going to jump,
Mhm.
but do you feel that Joel was trying to fill that void of losing his daughter?
Um. Yeah. Yes and no. I don't. At first, the I think she reminded him of his daughter, and I think because of that, he was trying to almost distance himself from her. Like he didn't want to have that emotional
Attachment,
attachment
yeah.
or connection, because that gets you killed in
Yeah.
in this world. But I think just over time, because I'm not sure which episode it is, if it's from 5 to 6, somewhere around there, the timeline jumps 3 months.
Yeah.
So they've been together for a while. And I think after a certain point, I think he does start to look at her like his daughter. And I think she does fill that void. And I think that's when it starts becoming scarier for him, because it's like, I can't lose her again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we start to see that more and more, because originally she was just baggage. She's a package. He's got to take from here to there. And I feel like maybe earlier on that would have been something he could have easily just detached himself from. Like if it gets too crazy, gets too hot, hey, sorry, and let her go, and she dies, whatever. Sorry, couldn't do it. But I think that changed, and he's like, shit, I really care for this kid, and she really reminds him of his daughter. And you see those flashbacks of his daughter, and you see that interaction with her.
Yeah.
And she's she does such a great job with the Ellie character. I mean, she's so charming, and so you can't help but fall in love with with both of these characters, because they're both really good. And just to touch on something you said before, like you have a lot of critics and a lot of the video game nerds who get mad at certain details that are skipped or something that's added in. But I have to say, from like a lot of video game movie adaptations, I feel a lot of the video game fans actually do like it. Like it's a smaller group of the haters, as opposed to like, say like Marvel or something else, where you just, all you hear is people complaining. But this one I'm seeing a lot of good feedback that people are like, all right, that's actually pretty cool,
Yeah.
Although episode 3 I feel like it's still kind of split. I'm with you though. That's one of my favorites.
No, it's my favorite episode. Now I'll tell you why towards the end. But yeah, I mean, they skip from, I think they go 3 months after episode 5. I mean, spoiler alert for you guys who hasn't watched it, and we're like 20 minutes into it. Sam ends up getting infected. Henry doesn't know what to do in the end of this episode, and Henry ends up killing Sam, right? And he ends up shooting him, and then out of distraught, he ends up killing himself. I mean, that to me is almost as close as episode 3, because you just see his love for his brother so much that he's like, if my brother's not going to live, I'm not going to live either. So he kind of did what everybody expected Joel to do in episode 1. And I never caught that connection, that Joel was so distraught that his brother or his daughter died, that all he wanted to do was kill himself. He, it's like he should have. And I think if Tommy wasn't there in episode 1, I guarantee you Joel would have killed himself and just be laid next to his daughter. But we see Sam get infected, and we see Henry can't take all that. And he's like, I can't live without my brother, so I'm taking my own life. And he does. Yeah. Which to me is kind of heart-wrenching, because it's kind of sad, because you did all this for your brother. You did everything you can for your brother to survive. And this is one of my gripes in this episode, is everybody knew Joel was in that house. Everybody knew he was in that building. And when they saw the infecteds coming, they had a running start. Joel, Ellie, and Sam. Henry, Ellie, and Sam had a running start. When they saw those infected coming, I don't care who you are, I'm running straight to that house where I know at least the guy who's killing everybody is there.
Right.
They decide to run under, they run under a car. Ellie's, for some reason, decides to run inside a minivan. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Yeah. I'm sure this is all from the video game. And again, we haven't played the video game, so I don't know, but
it's easy for us. It's easy for us to talk because we don't have hundreds of freaking zombies after us. But no, that is probably one of my favorite scenes of the whole series. Because as I watch this, even though I haven't played the game, I'm a huge video game fan, right? We always talk about this. I don't play a lot, but I do love video games. We grew up with all the original games. Yeah. And so I couldn't help but picture, is this the first person shooter part of the game, right? Like, is there a part of the game where you're hanging out a window and you're trying to snipe, moving targets? Because there's plenty of games where you have that. And so I'm always trying to, after this, I'm definitely going to go play the game just to compare and contrast. But I love that scene where she jumps into the van, although it's driving me crazy that she jumps into the van. Yeah. But you have this little clicker zombie girl who, of course, fits through the little back window perfectly.
I see you, Ellie. I see you.
And I don't know what that was. That may have been the zombie chipmunk, but I don't know what it is about little kid zombies they seem to be worse than the adult ones.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you ever go to someone's house and they have a little badass kid that like bites.
Yeah.
That's like that times 1,000. And I mean that scene, it's freaking scary as hell. And Joel being the badass he is, like of course he's like this expert marksman who's just taking everybody out, and he saves her ass again. But yeah, that was an amazing scene.
That's another gripe that I have. I know I said I saved my gripes towards the end, but we're talking about this particular episode. Ellie keeps looking up at Joel. And Ellie keeps looking up at Joel, and it's dark. You can't really see Joel, but for some reason, her super infected vision can see him telling her, go to the right, go to the right. So she's running to the right, and then he's shooting the zombie right behind her. And I'm like, I had to rewind that episode a few times because I was like, does she really see him? Because, no one else knew he was up there. Like they didn't know the sniper was up there when they were walking through that street. Yeah. So how is she seeing him? It's like I'm like
it's the connection they got.
It's the Grogu in her. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that episode was cool. I definitely like that episode. But again, with me, if all hell broke loose the way it did, I'm running straight for that building, or at least I know they have to go through the door before they get through us. And they decided to run under a car. She decided to go into a minivan. She had that little infected zombie go after her.
Yeah, that's this show is like, it really is like an emotional roller coaster, because I don't know, there may be one or two episodes where you don't get choked up, because that scene, and I'm, backtracking a little bit, but I wanted to touch on that whole scene with Henry and his brother, the night before. Ellie just has a sweet moment with Sam, and they're reading the comic, and they're just having a good time, and she finds out that he was bit. Yeah. He shows her that she was bit, and she knows what's happening. You see it in her face, and she panics and tries to, she cuts herself, I believe, to put her blood on his wound, hoping that somehow magically her blood would help. And just that scene of when, he's scared and he asks her to stay up with me. And she's like, yeah, of course. But, she falls asleep and wakes up, and he's sitting at the edge of the bed. And for that split moment, you're hoping maybe it worked. Maybe he's alive. And he doesn't, and he's one of these little badass zombie kids, like I just said, that are terrifying. And you're like, no. And they do such a good job, like the writing, where you go from this sweet moment of to right back into the shits, and you're like, fuck, and then we have just that whole emotional scene like Eric spoke about, where he has to kill his little brother and can't live with the fact that, one, of what he just did, and then two, I have to live without my little brother. It was probably his whole purpose of surviving anyway. So yeah, man, shout outs to the writer, man. It really just, spoiler alert, if you don't watch this with some Kleenex or something, you have a wet face. Like, just prepare yourself for the emotional ride.
Don't get emotionally attached to the characters. That's all I gotta say. For someone who's never really killed anyone, man, Henry was pretty marks on shooting his brother in the head. Right. I mean, I was like, he was like, I don't really like killing anybody. My gun is empty, because their guns were empty. There was no ammo in it. It was all for show. But for him to actually hit his brother in the head while they were fighting, I was like, wow, that's pretty marksman's of you there.
Hey, listen, you made it count.
Man, but yeah, no, that was a cool episode. And then they skip 3 months, like you said, and they go to episode 6, which is titled Kin. And in this episode, they make it to Utah. Is it Utah?
I think I'll be honest, I haven't paid attention to the locations.
Yeah, I think they make it to Utah, and they finally find Tommy and this makeshift community, which is really cool, and is one of those places where I wouldn't have left. That's just me. Even though there's a purpose for Ellie, I wouldn't have left. I would have been like, hey, maybe we can find them down the road. Maybe they'll come here and find us. Right. But I wouldn't have left. I would have stayed there. Everything you needed was there. But
Yeah.
it's business. It's a movie. It's a TV show.
Mhm.
They had to show us what happened after that.
Yeah. I mean, I think Joel, I think he felt that and realized that, and I think at this point too, he's still kind of afraid of how he feels for Ellie,
Mm-hmm.
because he finds his brother in this place, like you said, it's just this perfect kind of utopia in the middle of hell,
Yeah.
and he's just like, look, I can't do this shit anymore. I'm
Yeah.
old. I'm hurting. You take her. Like, you continue from here. Whatever. Like, I can't do it. And I think part of that is because he's afraid. Afraid of losing her. So if we leave on good terms, if she's still alive, I can at least in my head think that she's okay and not have to worry about it.
Yeah.
But I'm like you, man. I see my brother. We got beds and
We got
food.
Food. Yeah, that's the most important thing is food, because
a house. Like, come on.
I mean, not only did they give them a house, they gave them their own house.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, like not even a room.
Ellie had her own, and Joel had his own. So I'm like, wow, you guys, that's how big this place is? It's like, you're going to be right next door to each other. I'm like, what?
Yeah. And that too, because I mean, I guess I got to give a little bit, and I usually do for movies and stuff, but they talk about how they had like a whole plumbing and sewage system and all this stuff going, like an actual working town. And I remember thinking to myself, is that even possible? Like, could you have like working sewage system and plumbing in just one town without like a whole grid or whole city work? So I mean, to me that was like kind of a bit of a stretch, but I don't know the logistics. I'm not an engineer, so I just kind of like, all right, I'll believe it just for the sake of the show. But I mean,
think
you come across that. Like,
it was Tommy's wife that said it, where she said, we finally got the dam to turn on.
Gotcha.
And with that turning on, we were able to, the lights, the natural, the electricity. I don't know how the plumbing and the sewage system works with all that.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming once they got that figured out, once they got that working, all of that together was,
Yeah. I mean, I think at this point too, it had been a few years since this thing had been, this pandemic, if you want to call it. So I guess they had time to figure it out and enough people to. But yeah, I wouldn't have left.
What I love about that episode is the beginning of the episode. They show Marlon, who's played by great actor Graham Greene. Dances with Wolves. He always plays a Native American in every show that he does, and he does it again here. And I love how he says, everyone that goes there, they never come out. Yeah. So we call it, the Death River or whatever. But then we see why they never come out is because they stay in that town, and him and his wife played the cutest role there. She was just like giggling the whole time. It's like, you got this guy and this strange girl in your house. You serve them breakfast. You serve them coffee. You serve them breakfast. They were hungry. It's like, just her character was exactly what, like, for this time that we're in, or they're in, there's apocalypse. She's being courteous, and she's being nice to them and feeding them food. It's like,
there's always someone's nana.
Yeah.
No matter what, that zombie apocalypse, that there's always one that wants to make sure you ate.
And then Joel's sitting here trying really hard to be hard, like, you tell me where this map is, and if you don't tell me exactly what she says, I'll I'll kill you or something like that. And he's trying really hard to be hard, but he's not. He can't, because she's sitting in the background like
just being so like hospitable. I noticed that too when you're talking about the actor Graham. I said to myself, I'm like, is this guy like the only native actor? Because like he's been in every movie where you have a Native American, he's always there. I mean, that's a whole another discussion we can get into as far as.
I think for him, from what I read, this is a while back, I think from what I read is the reason why you don't see him as much anymore is because he only wants to play some kind of Native American. Even if it's a small role, a small role like this. It's like, you can tell from the rugs that he had in his in their cabin to the way he was hunting with an arrow. He just wants to be a Native American. He wants to play a Native American role, which to me, it's like, I'd rather see him than somebody named Ortiz or somebody named Balanag, playing a Native American.
Yeah. I mean, we see it all the time, and just not to get off topic, one of my dad's biggest gripes about West Side Story is that there was only one Puerto Rican actually in that movie, but you also have to think of the time and place. But he hates it because that's his time period and he grew up and he loves that movie, but he also hates it that he always says it's just a bunch of white people in brown face. And I'm like, well, Dad, you got to understand the time, and era it was in. But Rita Moreno, she opened the door. So shout outs to her.
Did he watch the remake?
I don't know if he did or not.
Okay.
I'm not sure if he did. I got to ask him.
Because he'll be happy with that, because I think they're all Hispanic characters in that one. I don't know how many Puerto Ricans, but I think they're all Hispanic.
We're getting closer.
Getting closer. To change the topic again, I didn't know when Mulan, the live action, came out, and they were supposed to be in this part of China. And I said, oh, all the Asian Chinese will be happy because, they're talking about their culture. I talked to a Chinese coworker and she was like, no, that province is da-da-da-da, and this is where this province is, but she's from Szechuan and she's not really, this actress. I'm like, okay. Oh. So it's kind of like saying, I'm going to play a role about me being in San Francisco and I grew up in San Francisco, but the guy who gets my role is a guy from New York.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So that's kind of how she said it, where it's like she's from a different village, but she's trying to portray this village, which I guess in Chinese history, it's a sacred village. I don't know.
Gotcha. I mean, that's important for a lot of people to make sure not only that they're represented in film and TV and things like that, but represented properly, because like you just said, West Side Story may have a bunch of Hispanic people, but not necessarily Puerto Rican who the story is about, so that's the next step. I mean, it's only been 100 years of 120 years of film, so we're getting there.
I mean, that's why we were so. That's why we loved Prey, the Predator movie so much, because every character there had somewhat to deal with a Native American from back in the day. So that's why we're like, they didn't try to substitute, hey, I see that one Asian in the back all the way there trying to pretend he's Native American. No, they did everybody, even the extras were Native American, which, shout out to the writers and directors for that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to the topic. I would have stayed. I would have stayed in that town. I would have been like, hey, we have everything we need. And this is another gripe I have in this episode, where Joel was so angry that he couldn't just be like, look, Ellie, we have everything we need here. I'll get you to them. Let's just hang out here for a while. We've gone through what I would assume it was 4 or 5 months, from the beginning to when they found this place, because it did say 3 months later. So I'm assuming from episode 1, episode 5, that was probably a month. And then now 3 months later, they find this place. I would have been like, dude, let's just relax for a couple of weeks. We'll get you to the Fireflies, or we can get word out that you're here. They can come to you.
Right.
Something like that. But again, they have to go with what the video games are saying, which to me, I was like, oh, damn.
Yeah, no, same here. I was actually thinking that, like, why don't they just stay there? And now they can send out, explain to his brother how important she is, what's going on, what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And just send out like a scout team with more supplies who can go and find the Fireflies and bring them back, as opposed to risking her, because if something happens to her, now what? Now we're screwed. And now humanity really has no chance of getting a vaccine.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good episode. I liked it. The episode ended with them finding the university, finding where the Fireflies was supposed to be, and ended up not being there. Episode ended with Joel getting stabbed with a baseball bat. That, to me, when I saw that, I'm like, oh, it's like, dude, you get stabbed with the tip of a baseball bat. Yeah. And then it ended with him falling off the horse. And then now we don't know whether he's going to die or not in the next episode. Right. So,
yeah, that cliffhanger had me sick because I'm like, I don't know nowadays with these shows, and I already heard rumors about the game about not becoming too attached to characters, and
Yeah.
I'm like, shit, is this like the first big loss? And right away I'm thinking, like, I'm so invested into these characters. I'm like, what is Ellie gonna do? Like,
Yeah.
how is she supposed to survive without him? Like,
Yeah.
she can't do this alone,
And that's
You know what I
exactly
mean?
that's exactly how episode 6 ends. Remember, like Joel was
Mhm.
saying, if anything happens to me, I'm old. I can hardly hear anything. It takes me
Mhm.
a minute to get back into my
Yeah.
full strength. If anything happens to me, who's going to take care of you? He's like, Tommy's a lot
Right.
younger. He's more experienced when it comes to this.
Mhm.
Tommy will take you. But she was like,
Yeah.
no, it better be you. And towards the end of episode 6, he finds that the little that like, okay, fine, I'll take you. But then
Right.
exactly what he didn't wish it would happen
Mhm.
happened. He gets
Yep.
stabbed, he falls. Ellie's like, Joel, wake up. Joel, wake up.
Mhm.
And then, we go into episode 7, which is a flashback. So we have to
Right.
wait 2 weeks now to see what happens to Joel.
Yeah. Yeah. But instantly you're just like, damn it. It confirms. And I think that setup was done on purpose, where it's kind of like, we find the safe haven with his brother and all that. And
Yeah.
it makes, I think it's done to make the watchers, the viewers, like, all right, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Let's just chill. And then immediately it's like, no,
No.
you know, and then we get to the next episode, and then we start to find out a little more about Ellie and her past.
Yeah.
She's about to, I think she goes to set off to leave. I think he tells her to leave or something like that, in his state where he can barely talk. He's there in this house.
Yeah.
She must have dragged him in there somehow. He's in this basement in the bed and on a cot, whatever. And he's not doing too good. He doesn't look like he's gonna
Yeah.
make it, honestly. And he's basically trying to get her to leave. And she goes to walk out, and she stops at the door, and we get this flashback of her back at where was that she
It was the first after wherever season 1 started. What was it, Boston? I think it was Boston.
right,
Yeah, it was Boston.
right. And we see kind of in a sense Ellie's origin story.
Yeah.
We see her with her friends. We see where she's, I guess, raised. And what's really really interesting is this episode really kind of shows how much of life Ellie didn't get to experience
Yeah.
because of the pandemic thing. You
Yeah.
know, I call it a pandemic just because,
That-
lack of a better term.
Pretty much what it was.
Um, Yeah. And yeah, we see how much of the world she doesn't know, right? We're introduced to her friend Riley,
Yeah.
who I guess they're best buds, and they're friends and maybe a little more. And Riley ends up getting chosen to become one of the Fireflies.
Yeah.
Right. And so the way she breaks it to Ellie is she kind of takes her on this secret mission to a mall and shows her all this cool stuff that, again, from the regular world that Ellie never got to see. She sees a arcade game. She sees what was it, electrical stairs, which are like an escalator.
Escalator.
Like, we start seeing this kind of side of her that it's like, oh man, it's cool, but it also really puts into perspective where she is, and what she's missed out on. I thought that was pretty cool. Like, that was one of the first things I noticed, that I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. No, the writing in that one, even if they just took it from the video game,
Mhm.
it made me realize that she did miss a lot, just even like the little subtle hint, like, oh my God, how does this escalator work? It's like we see people in the mall all the time who from this day on, they still don't know how to get on this. But her being that there was, an apocalypse, she was born into Fedra or the Fireflies, and she didn't experience any of this,
Right.
even playing the simple thing like a video game or riding a carousel, she was enjoying. She's like, oh, this is the coolest thing in the world, because she never did get to enjoy this. I'm pretty sure the magazines that they had in the camp, she saw all this, but she was never able to experience it herself and to actually see it. And shout out to Bella Ramsey for that, man. She played that character perfect in this episode. Just the whole how do I get on this? The escalator
Yeah.
scene. She's like, whoa. And, you know, like
Yeah.
just the look on her face, she was just like,
Mhm.
wow. You know, to us, it's just like, the hell's wrong with you? You know?
Right.
But she played that character. She showed us the emotion of what it was like. And I'm pretty sure the director is like, act like you've never been on it before and just give me that look and make it seem like it's your first time getting on it.
Yeah.
And she did, you know. I
Mhm.
want to see how many takes it took her to actually get that face. And
Yeah.
you know, it was cool. It was a cool episode.
Yeah.
Let
No,
me ask you this. Riley and her had a little thing.
Mhm.
Does they never did, you know, Ellie never talked about her sexuality in the episode. I don't even think she did in the video game. So
Right.
do you think she liked girls?
I do. I think they you know, they kind of hint to it throughout the series. You
Yeah.
know, she's kind of tomboyish.
Yeah.
You know, there's I forget which episode. There's a scene where she kind of like finds like a dirty magazine in the back,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of like just disinterested in it or whatever. And I think they showed really well. I wish I knew the young lady who plays Riley, but they both of them had this chemistry that was like it was done so well because
Yeah.
you can see that they were friends, you can see that they were really close, and you can see that there was a little more there that maybe they were, because of their age, too afraid to you know, kind of explore. But we see it kind of all come out when Riley breaks it to
Yeah.
Ellie that she's leaving, and you see, like, man, you see the hurt, you see the anger.
Yeah.
She doesn't want her to leave. That's you know, her best friend. And if I'm not mistaken, don't they kiss in the
Yeah.
scene? Right, there's an episode where they're dancing, which, by the way, was freaking done amazingly. And it's one of those scenes where they change slightly from the game.
Yeah.
Because in the game they're not wearing masks.
Yeah.
In the show they're wearing, they find these like funny masks and they put them on and they're dancing, and then they take them off. And just that oh man, the acting that Bella Ramsey does in that scene of when right away she's angry and she's pissed off at her and she's like, you know what, screw this.
Yeah.
Can't believe you're doing it. And she leaves because she's hurt, but she doesn't want to because it's also the last time she's going to see her.
Yeah.
And as she's leaving, of course, they show us a shot of one of those bloaters who's like somewhere down in this mall, who's like asleep and like kind of wakes up. And so right away, you know, fuck, you know, and you hear as Ellie's walking away, you hear screaming, you hear what you think is Riley screaming, and you're like, no. And she goes running back to save her. And it's some freaking, like, I was at like a Halloween store, decoration or something that screamed. And, you know, Riley's like, oh, that was my last surprise that I had for you. And then they kind of, you know, make up, and it's just really like, yeah, it was done so well. Like just in one episode, they were able to convey like a long relationship and friendship that these two girls had. And yeah, man, acting is just really good along with great writing.
I mean, what I love about this is they showed us, the viewers, when the mall closed. I mean, you had a Halloween store, and for all of us who shops during Halloween, we know they always take an empty store and they make it into a costume shop. You know, it could be anything. And they actually did this in this episode where this one particular store was a costume shop. You know, it had those little jump scares. It had the headstone with the crow. I mean, those are the little things they had in the background, which to me, it's like, okay, so the mall must have closed during October, because that's when the Halloween stores are open. So to me, even something small like that, something a lot of people overlooked, even the video game people probably didn't realize that little small detail. But for someone like us who's like watching every little detail, I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool that they did this, you know? And you're right. It's one of those episodes where there was a lot of good positive scenes about it. And for Riley to say, hey, look, Fireflies are shipping me out. They're moving me to wherever. And this is my last day for you. And, you know, Ellie's like, wow, you brought me here just to butter me up, just so it could be a softer blow when you're telling me you're leaving. And Riley's like, I asked Marlene to take you with me. And Marlene is the lady that was holding Ellie in the beginning, and then we see Marlene again towards the end. But she was the one that found Riley, and she's the one that
Right.
told Ellie, all this other stuff. But no, I love that scene. I love this episode because it was exactly what we always say we wish we could do, like
Right.
get stuck in the mall. And
Yeah.
I want to know if they took this scene and they took it off. Was it Day of the Dead? Was it Day of the Dead when they get stuck in the one with Vin Rames?
Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Where they get stuck in the mall also.
Right.
And they're, I'm wondering if the video games people who made this game took that and said, you know what? Let's put these two girls in the wall.
Yeah.
And they did it well. They did it well.
I mean, yeah, I love it because it also, I'm the kind of person I'm always thinking of like things like the zombie apocalypse and what I would do and where I would go. And I mean, the mall is like probably one of the best places you could go to as far as having supplies. But they've also had a bad history in horror movies, specifically zombie movies. And can't forget Chopping Mall, which is another great slasher movie.
Yeah. It's up there with Cocaine Bear.
I still haven't watched it, but I've heard good things.
I watched it. But yeah, no, this episode was cool. It ended up we finally found out how Ellie gets bitten in this episode. That one zombie or that one clicker that Joe's talking about gets up, ends up fighting them both. They both get bitten, and unfortunately Riley turns, and in a later episode Ellie tells Joel, she said, we'll sit here and nothing will happen, or we'll sit here and our mind will go crazy, which means their minds getting infected. And she even says, her mind went crazy, mine didn't. So I kind of wish they showed us like her going crazy and then her having to shoot her friend. And because that's another emotional scene if she had to do that. Like, I can't, but I have to.
Right. Yeah. That's another one of those scenes, like the stabbing scene and Sam and Henry.
Yeah.
That whole scene. And I feel like, and I'm assuming this is done purposely, when it comes to the types of mercy killings, I guess, where they're either trying to put someone out of their misery, or like when he was trying to protect Ellie from seeing him kill that guy, it's like they kind of leave it up to the imagination.
Yeah.
Like all the other stuff, the zombies and the bad guys, and they'll show those killings, but when it comes to those kind of real important sentimental ones, I don't know what the meaning behind it is, but I feel like we don't need to show that. You know what's going on.
We'll just let you assume that's what happened.
Yeah, because I mean, our imaginations are probably worse than anything they could put on the screen anyway. At least mine is. I
mean, till she told Joel that she had to take her friend out, I just assumed she left. She saw her tripping out, and she ran out of the mall, and she just left her roaming in the mall and let someone else find her. But no, she confirmed that she had to take her out. So which was, it was a good episode. I liked it. Very emotional. There's definitely a lot of things I didn't like about that episode, but we'll talk about that later. So episode 8, towards the last couple episodes, they go back to them in the cabin. And Ellie's now trying to really find a way to help Joel. So she's like, I'm gonna get food. Joel's terrible. I mean, he looks like he's getting ready to die. That's just how I looked at it. And Ellie finds a way to freaking bag a deer. There was an episode in episode 4 where they're leaving. Was it episode 5? No, episode 6. Sorry, the episode 6. Joel, when they're leaving Tommy's place, Joel's teaching Ellie how to shoot a rifle.
That's right.
And then in episode 8, Ellie takes that advice, bags a deer, and then they find David. Is it David? Is that his character's name?
I'm terrible with the names, but that's the head of that. Yeah. Not the head of that town, but the bad guys.
So they find him, and they already show us who this guy is in the beginning, and it's like this guy's evil all over. You can already tell he's evil. And then they end up showing us his name. Yeah, his name was David.
Okay.
And then Troy Baker, David's right hand man, who's actually the voice character for Joel in the video game, which, you know, cool homage to him to play in the movie. I didn't like David from the beginning.
No, and the thing about, I mean, I don't know the actor's name, but he plays David so well because you know he's a bad guy. You know he's creepy.
Yeah.
But he comes across as this really nice, helpful guy. Like when Ellie kills this deer and they come across her, you know, he's trying to be really nice there. She doesn't trust him at all.
Yeah.
And he's just like, look, man, like there's no way, you know, you can't take this by yourself. We have this town. We have a lot of people. We have help. You know, we have all these things. And you just can't help but just say, no, don't believe him. Don't trust him. Just shoot him.
Trust them.
You know, like just take him out right there. Like,
yeah. And she gets that from Joel, which I love. She gets the whole thing from Joel where it's like, don't trust them. Don't trust them. And I love that about her because she's like, no, walk away from the deer. But then he says exactly what she needs to hear. It's like, we have medicine, we have food. And when she heard medicine, she right away, she became selfless and said, okay, I'll give you half the deer, but I need antibiotics or whatever she said she needs.
Yeah.
And that right there, her negotiation with David ends up saving Joel's life because they gave her penicillin. And I love the fact that when she got the penicillin, she didn't know what to do with it. She's like, Joel, where do I put it? And I'm just like, stick it in anything. You know, I'm here thinking, stick it in his arm, stick it in his butt, stick it somewhere. But she's like, I'm just gonna put it in here. And the whole time she's doing that, I was just like, oh God. Even Joel, who's like on his deathbed, was like,
yeah. No, seriously, they did such a good job this episode with the suspense.
Yeah.
You know, because your hairs are standing up. The whole interaction between her and David, you know something's up. You don't know when it's gonna happen, and you're stressing out the whole time. Like it's just one of those. I don't even want to call it a filler episode because it's not, but it's one of those episodes where you're just not gonna have that moment of, you know, it's just fuck. What's gonna happen next?
What's gonna happen next? Exactly what's gonna happen. But yeah, so this episode, when we are all in need, ends up, becoming one of the most gruesome, weirdest episode I could ever think in a zombie apocalypse or in a movie like this. But it doesn't surprise me. You know, David is a leader of a town which is almost kind of cult-like, and someone pointed out David Koresh, the other cult leader who slept with everyone in the farm or in wherever that was. This guy David did the same thing, and then we come to find out later on they're cannibals. It's like that to me right there. It's like, ugh. Yeah. But if you're in this time of need and you have to do some kind of Donner Party thing, it's like,
and it's what's funny is just when you thought you had enough to deal with zombies and crazy people, now we have humans that are alive that are eating people. It's like, what the hell? I can't catch a break.
See, so that's one thing they never mentioned is were they killing people to eat them, or were they just eating the people that just died or was already dead?
I have a feeling it was a little bit of both.
Okay.
I think it was people that died and maybe people that were enemies, that maybe try to hurt them or something like that. But what was even creepier though is not only were they cannibals, but that guy David had this weird obsession with Ellie. Like you didn't know, like he wanted to make her his wife or something, and it was just like made it really, really the character that much more sicker. You know what I mean? Like the zombies are an afterthought now because we got to deal with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, even his right hand man, James, said just leave her alone. Let's just, we got with the deer, we got what we need. That's just one mouth to feed, you know. And he was even saying like, just let her be, you know. They didn't even want to go after her like the next day. And he's like, no, this is the guy that killed our guy, so we have to find them and we have to kill them. And then he was adamant about bringing her back alive, right? Like, bring her back alive. I don't want nothing to happen to her. Come to find out, he had weirder intentions than we thought. You know, he's like this pedophile who's like, I see a little girl, and you know, I want that. That's pretty much what he was saying, right? And
that's what I mean. We went from zombies to pedophile cannibal. Like,
pedophile.
This is the shit we gotta deal with in this damn freaking world.
Hey, but this is on my notepad because this is something okay, that's the pedophile zombie right there, or a zombie cannibal right there. No, but it's weird because when we watch things like The Walking Dead, we saw all the twisted shit that episode or that series had. Now this one right here, it makes you like, damn, I wonder if there is people like that out there.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm assuming there is, you know?
I mean, when you think about it now, we look at all the serial killers and all the crazy shit that happens in this world. And if there were to be a zombie apocalypse, those people are still out there.
Yeah.
So, you know, that would be the perfect time for them because, you know, people want to trust people.
Yeah.
But they can just, you know, pounce on them. You know what I mean?
He messed with the wrong girl. I mean, I'm pretty sure every girl in that village just let him do whatever. Yeah. But Ellie was like, nope.
Yeah. And my favorite part about this episode, you know, they finally they get Ellie, right? They go back to the house, they get her, they bring her back to the town. Joel was able to hide, and they put her in this jail cell, and they come to get her, and they're pretty much about to just do something awful to her. We don't know. They put her down on this table, and what I really loved about this show is this whole time where they're doing this to her, you see Joel. He gets up, he finds the strength, he musters up the strength to go look for her now because he knows, like, fuck, you know, something, they're gonna hurt her. And he's getting there, he gets to the town, he's looking for her, he's fucking starts killing these people as he gets to, like, just being really badass Joel. Like,
don't give a fuck,
you know, just heartless. Just one of the guys puts his gun up like, hey, you got it, you know, and he fucking still takes him out. I'm like, yes. You know, so this whole time you're waiting for Joel to come and save Ellie when in fact she saves herself because she's so fucking badass and she fights literally to the death. She stabs his buddy in the neck.
My god, that was the best. Yeah,
that was the original Joel, right?
The voice in the movie.
The voice
in the game.
For the game. I mean, stabs him right in the neck and fucking kills the other guy. But when I mean kills him, it's overkill. And just the fucking performance, the rage you see in her, the hurt that you see in her because she's forced to kill another person because that's not what she wants to do, but she's doing it to save her life. That just guttural feeling of wanting to survive.
Yeah.
And absolutely amazing performance by Bella Ramsey.
I mean, what kills me about that episode, that scene that you're talking about, is the cabin or the building is on fire. They're about to go down in flames, and this sick guy is still trying to rape her. You know, instead of like, let's get out of here, we're about to die. He's like, this is all love, my child. You know, this is, you know, you can't hide love. And while he's trying to pull his pants down, she's trying to find a way. There's a machete here somewhere. I'm going to find it. And sure enough, she finds it and she knocks him out. And just that, you said that performance of her. And I'm glad we didn't see it. But you can just see all the blood that's splashing on her face. And she just doesn't do it one time. I try to rewatch that scene to see how many times. And I think I stopped at 15 or 20. Because she killed this guy to a point where, you know, his next generation kids wouldn't even be around anymore. That's how bad she did it. And seriously, the whole scene, the end scene where she comes out of that building and Joel's there. And then she's still in shock, and Joel has to protect her, say, hey, I'm here. Mm-hmm. And he finally calls her baby girl. And I love the visual in here because he's hugging her, calling her baby girl, but at the same time, they're kind of showing his watch that his daughter gave him in season 1. And every time he thought about his daughter, he always looked at his watch.
Yeah.
So this scene right here, he was like, okay, baby girl, I got you, hugging her. And then they're showing the watch to say like, okay, he's finally given in to Ellie, and Ellie's finally going to be part of his life. I mean, just, this episode to me was the weirdest, but also the strongest in both characters, because that one scene where you're talking about where he's still laying in bed and that super penicillin that, she gives him, he was like, Joel, I'm going to leave you this knife. They're here, Joel. Find the strength to hide. Find the strength to hide, Joel. They're going to,
Yeah, she said, if you hear footsteps, that's not me.
Yeah. So like Joel is still in that state of like, we don't know where he is, right? We don't know if he's like, if he's alive. You don't know if he's coherent.
Right.
And then next, that guy goes down there and he's like, oh shit, where is he? He's like, what? It's like, man, that episode to me was a cool episode. And I'm glad Joel didn't have to kill David. And I'm glad it was Ellie that had to kill him. And it showed us how strong a character she's going to be moving forward. Because if she can do this herself, I mean, she did it herself. She killed that dude by just slicing his throat. Just taking that cleaver and putting it on his neck. And man, this was a cool episode.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see where they go with season 2. If it's going to be about Last of Us 2, the game, or because we do know, and spoiler alert, but there is a big age jump in the game. But the creators of the show have already said they are not going to recast Bella Ramsey. She's going to stay Ellie.
Nice.
So how they decide to work that out will be interesting. But she has become a fan favorite, not from the video game heads to just fans of the show. And I'm glad they decided to keep her, because I can't see anyone else playing Ellie, even if she is older. I don't care. I'll take it. She's just that good of a performer.
Yeah. And then we go to the final episode, Look for the Light. To me, it's a little disappointing episode. But it ends the video game, and this is how it ends, where they finally find the Fireflies, or the Fireflies find them. And now you see a different Joel. Joel is now open to Ellie. He's talking a little bit more. He's not that shut down kind of guy. He wants to hear puns. And Ellie's like, you want to hear puns? So of course she takes the pun book out of her bag and she gives all these puns. And Joel's like, oh my God, that's so stupid. But it's kind of showing us that he's finally open to this person that for the first 8 seasons, he would want nothing to do with. But we kind of see in episode 6 that he was kind of sort of starting to like her. Like he realized there's that empty void in his life, and Ellie's that empty void. And in episode 9, he's all in. This is my girl. I'm going to make sure she's taken care of. They see they find them, and then it kills me with these Fireflies, man. They see Joel and Ellie, and I'm sure they know who Joel is. Probably not know who Ellie is, but they still flashbang him from behind, and then they still knock him out. Joel wakes up in the hospital room. He's just like, Joel's like, dude, come on, man. But Joel wakes up in the hospital room and he sees Marlene there, and Marlene is explaining to him what they're gonna do to Ellie, and tells his guys like, here's his pack, take him to the end of the road. And if he decides to fight back, just shoot him. And then Joel finds out that they're not just going to take the cure from Ellie. They're going to actually kill her to take the cure. And he flips out.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah. No, yeah. This episode, like, just to piggyback off of you. Yeah. We now see just the relationship is just solidified. We have this moment where they're kind of talking, and she asks him about the scar on his head, and he talks about, trying to kill himself. And it's, again, amazing scene where like they have this big connection, but you're just trying not to cry, because it's like, damn, that was the moment where he's like, he basically let her know, like, you're my kid, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? And lack of a better term. But yeah, then we find out, of course, like there's everyone has these ulterior motives. It's never, what you expect it to be.
It's not plain and simple.
No. And real quick, one of the things I like too is they had the voice, the actor who originally voiced Joel and gave him kind of a little spot. They did the same with the girl who did Ellie's voice. She
Yeah.
played her mom
In the
in the
beginning, yeah.
flashback, who was also the girl from Full House. I mean, not Full House.
Ashley
Growing
Johnson.
Pains.
Yeah, she's the youngest daughter in Growing Pains.
Yeah, whose face has not changed in the last 20 years.
She just got
by
a
the way.
lot more mature, which is I like.
but
Yeah,
still looks the same. But yeah,
Ashley Johnson,
so
that's her name. Yeah.
actually, yeah. So yeah, then we find out, they're gonna have to take Ellie now, take her life in order to get the vaccine. And the only thing I could think of is like, what now?
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, obviously he's not gonna let them kill Ellie.
Nope.
But you don't know, you don't even know if it's possible for them to escape. But I can help but feel helpless because it's like, fuck no, this was supposed to save humanity. Now we're screwed because they're not gonna let it happen. He's not gonna let them kill her. But now what do we do?
Yeah.
So amazing writing once again, because it just keeps you feeling the way the characters feel throughout the series.
That beginning scene where they show the mom running through the forest and finding that house, and you can see she's about to pop, the baby's about to come out, and she would, the zombie comes there, the zombie ends up biting her, and that's kind of like, I guess that's how Ellie gets that, the mutation where her blood, it's in her bloodstream. But she said, I cut the umbilical cord before it can get to the baby.
Right.
So makes me wonder, did you cut it in time? Was it fast enough?
I think she said that. I think she lied because she knew if she didn't say that, they would have killed the baby.
They would have killed the baby. Okay.
So I think she lied to her and was like, I cut it before it got to her. And she kind of looked at her like, you sure?
Okay.
And that was her last ditch effort to save her daughter because she knew she was going to die.
I mean, that scene right there, she was so distraught with this zombie that she didn't even realize the baby came out.
Yeah.
She was just like, and then all of a sudden you hear the baby crying. She's like, oh, damn. I'm like, wow, you just gave birth. You didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
But again, it goes back to Dawn of the Dead. It reminds me of the baby that was born in the mall, but the baby was born as a zombie.
A zombie.
So I was thinking of that same thing. I'm like, wait a minute. Is this baby going to be a zombie? But we know it's not because it ends up becoming Ellie. But I love the little subtle things, the knife, the jacket that they wrapped her around in ends up becoming Bella or Ellie's jacket and Ellie's knife. And then Marlene was her friend back then. And that's how Marlene took Ellie in and said, you're going to be part of you're going to be part of Fedra.
Right.
And then when they realized that she never turned, she's like, wait a minute, she's immune. She has the blood. And just that scene shows you, again, when it comes to family, and now Joel thinks of Ellie as family, he's going to do everything he can to save her. He does full on Rambo again.
Yep.
Episode 8 ended with him going full on Rambo, trying to get to Ellie to that village. Right. Episode 9, same exact thing. Yeah. He's taking people out left and right. And I love the little subtle details again in the writing and the production where he's out of ammo. He's picking up another gun, I love that scene. It's just like, okay, I'm out here. Let me pick this one up.
Yeah. Cause that's exactly, what you would do in the game. Right. Cause in a game, man, it's just so good. And when you're playing a game, you have to conserve ammo. And if you run out of ammo, what do? You look around for someone you've killed to pick up their weapon. So that little detail and just tons of other details throughout the whole series are what really makes it. I think it makes it not only good for the non-game player, but for those video game heads, it just adds that much to it. And just like I said, even though I haven't played the game, but having played plenty of video games, that are, you know, based on a storyline, let's just say, you really appreciate those little things.
I mean,
you know.
every video game that has to do with a gun, that's how it is. You always try
Right.
to get the better gun out of whatever, you know, you're always stuck with a handgun, and then someone dropped an AK, I'm picking up this AK. There's only like 100 rounds. Now I got to find another, you know, that's how it is. And I love how they did this in this movie where it's just like Joel doesn't have unlimited, you know, ammo. He has to go between scenes, between people he shot to go get this gun. And eventually he ends up getting Ellie. They see her already like knocked out on the bed. And the doctor was just like, you can't be in here. And he just shoots him in the head.
Just took him out.
But he was being nice because he told everyone else to turn around.
Yeah.
Turn around. See, this is where...
he shot him in the head. No, I'm just kidding.
I would have.
Right? I mean, because at this point, you don't know if these nurses have guns on them.
I mean, you went out, took out everybody. Why not shoot these guys? You know, it's like, who's in charge here? Me. Psh, who's in charge here? You are. Thank you.
Exactly.
No, but that's what I would have done. I mean, that's what I would have done. And it's funny because for the video game heads, they know this ends with how part 2 of the video game starts. Because, you know, I'm not going to give spoilers. I already know how part 2 starts. I already know the character that dies in part 2. So I'm not going to give you guys spoilers. You guys want to watch spoilers or read spoilers, go play the video game. Because if the writers and the directors are going to go exactly how the video game is, I think they're going to stay on track with the video game in part 2 and in season 2 of this game. But Joel ends up saving Ellie like he always does. Shoots Marlene. They're on the way back to go live with Tommy. And then you kind of see this Ellie not really trusting Joel kind of thing, you know, like Ellie's telling him like another group of raiders came in and there was a shootout and he had to kill everyone and Marlena got shot during that shootout. And Ellie kind of gives that whole like, really?
Yeah.
Really? And this is what I don't like about this is the end of the movie, Ellie just says, Joel, is this what really happened? Then Joel said, yes.
Yeah.
Then Ellie says, okay.
Yeah.
And that's how it ends. I was like, that's it. This is the shortest runtime in all the episodes was that episode. That one only took 43 minutes out of all the other episodes.
I personally love the ending because he knows how much Marlene meant to Ellie.
Yeah.
And he knows that she probably maybe wouldn't have believed what he said, what he would have told her as far as they wanted to kill her. Or he knows that she may have been willing to sacrifice herself for everyone else. And he didn't want her to make that decision. Like he took that decision out of her hands, and he knows that chances are she finds out that he was the one that killed Marlene, she wouldn't forgive him. And I think it goes back to he can't lose her now because, you know, he sees his daughter so much in her and they've become so close that if I tell her what I really did, I might lose her. And so he had to lie. But you know that this is eventually going to come out in the future season. Yeah. So it's kind of like, man, how just anticipating the acting already has me excited because of how good these two are. So I'm really excited to see that.
It's one of those where I liked it. I like how it ended, but I was a little disappointed with the ending. I kind of wish it ended a little bit better. It kind of gave us a little bit more of what's going on in season 2, but instead we have to wait till season 2 for this game to continue. I mean, yeah, the movie was great. The ending was great, but it wasn't what I expected. I expected a little bit more, especially coming from the past 9 episodes was perfect. And then for this uncertainty, I guess it's a cliffhanger for season 2, right? It's one of those things where what is Ellie going to think of Joel now? Is Ellie going to still look up to him as the guy his savior. And I'm like, wait a minute, this guy just finally opened up to you and finally just started loving you like his own, and you're gonna like doubt him, you know? I mean, it's just one of those things. I don't know.
I think it's also too that connection to her real family, you know, like she knows Marlene was her mom asked Marlene to take care of her and help her out. And so maybe part of her feels like that sort of family, even though she has this connection with Joel. But either way, I love how I'm kind of torn because I agree with you. It was short and we'll get into because that's kind of part of what I didn't like about the show, but um it leaves you with a little bit of closure, like of everything that's just happened, and it's like, man, fuck. They just went through all this stuff, and but the cliffhanger is like now they're back to square one.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Where does he go now? Do we go back to my brother's? Do we try to find somewhere else that we can get this this vaccine? You know, so it did a good job of setting up the next season and closing out the first one. But yeah, there are some things that I didn't really care for, and I guess we can kind of you know.
Let's start with what you like about the whole thing. What did you like about everything? I mean, you know, we already discussed the positive things, but what did you like about it? I mean, you know, are you vested to watch season 2?
Yeah, I'm definitely invested I have to watch what happens now. But some of the things I liked are obviously, like you said, we spoke about the great acting, we spoke about the great writing, how they've taken some creative license to stray away from the game, but not in a way that it ruins it or where, you know, video game heads are going to be too mad. I love the Easter eggs, the paying the homage to the game with having the voice actors there, the Halloween decorations, like you said, to kind of let you know at what point in the year when everything stopped. And there was another Easter egg too that I don't know if you picked up when I think it was episode 4 when they got to the town. There's a movie theater in the background, and on the marquee they had the Matchstick Men and Underworld.
Oh wow!
So that kind of really puts you in perspective of where the movie was and what was going on that time. So little things like that, the details, are what I really liked, and the building of the characters. Not only individually, we see how they grow, but how they come together.
Yeah,
that was done amazingly. And again, I can't talk enough about Pedro and Ellie's Bella Ramsey's performances. I think that's probably my favorite out of the whole thing. My biggest surprise was their performances.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all there exactly, you know, dittoing what you just said about this whole thing. But me more looking at the production part of it, just for them to find areas where they could make it look like there was an apocalypse. Even in episode 3, just how Phil and Larry?
Bill and Frank.
Bill and Frank.
Phil and Larry. Look at those guys.
Throwing out names. That's an episode. That's in season 2, guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, how they just took that town for themselves, and for the production company to find a town that's either not working anymore or they had to build this from ground up. And even the scene where in episode 4, where they're just in that town and they're going through that freeway and then the bus is blocked in that freeway. I don't know if that's all CGI. I haven't watched any of the making of it yet, but just the production company to find that. Even episode 6, Tommy's little village, that right there, it's like, wow. You know, they took things from the video game and they made it exactly what it was. And that to me was just, for HBO to have this kind of budget and to do this, I don't know if PlayStation maybe said, hey, we'll do 50-50. You do the productions, we'll build the town for you guys. If that's what happened, man, shout out to them. To me, that was perfect. You know, just like you said, the Easter eggs, the little subtle things that people probably overlooked, you know, and now it's like, here we are, like, oh my God, they were showing Underworld, right? You know, right before the pandemic started, right?
Right.
It's like no one would have thought of stuff like that, but these little things I like. The character development from each character, from the small role guys to the weird people like David, to me was like on point. And I definitely love that about this episode or this series.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the negatives. Talk about what you didn't like.
Yeah. There wasn't much that I didn't like, but one of the things I felt like sometimes, I don't know if it was the length of episode or what, but it did feel a little rushed sometimes.
Yeah.
Like the storyline. It kind of, it was moving along pretty fast and jumped from one thing to the next. And then we had that 3-month gap or whatever. So it did feel a little rushed. Like I felt maybe they could have stretched it out maybe. And, I don't know if they could have made another season, but maybe another episode or two. So that was one thing. But there really honestly wasn't much that I did that. And I touched on it earlier, was that they didn't really show a lot of the clickers and the zombies or whatever you want to call them. I think they really wanted to concentrate a lot of the scariness on the bad people that they were coming up against, and that's cool. But when it comes to a zombie show, I like to see a little more of the zombies, a little more of that jump scare suspense that you get it in like a Walking Dead or Night of the Living Dead type movie or something like that. But I mean, it really is nitpicking, because it's hard for me to find much about this series that I don't like.
I mean, I have to break it down by episodes, and to piggyback off you, not enough infected. I mean, after episode 2, we didn't really see a lot anymore. We had to go to a flashback in episode 7 for them to finally show one again, because episode 8 and 9 didn't have it. And, like you said, you're dealing with how bad society is and how bad everyone is in society. But even in episode 3, they didn't show any infected, only in flashbacks. That to me, if you're going to call it The Last of Us, then you have to show some scenes where there's, even in episode 5, when they show all of them come out of the ground, they finally show us a bloater, and then in the video games, the bloater spits out, stuff. And they didn't even show that. They showed the bloater, and all he did was decapitate that guy, but they didn't show him spit anything out. And I think if they would have killed Kathleen in that episode, that would have been the best way for them to kill her, was just that bloater spit something out. But then we did see clickers in episode 2, which everyone was like, oh my God, they finally show live action clickers. But again, I think HBO was more invested on the characters, the character development of Ellie and Joel, and probably went a little bit over budget on showing us the little details, like the towns that they created. To where
I was actually going to ask you that, as someone who's, you've been on movie and TV sets and been part of productions. Do you think that was a budget issue, that maybe they didn't have the money to do too much CGI, so we'll kind of work with what we have, and maybe that's a reason why they don't show a lot of the gore and things like that, because that's special effects makeup or CGI. Do you think that's a possibility, or do you think that was just a stylized choice?
I think it was a budget. I mean, you think about it, just episode 5 alone, how many infected did we see there? We saw probably 100. Maybe it looked like 100 and it could have just been 50. It could have just been the same one running all over the place. But just imagine you have 50 people there on set, and you have to put makeup on them. And we talked about this before. Makeup artists, you can't get one makeup artist for 50 people. You got to get at least 50 makeup artists, because you're there for about an hour.
Yeah, at least, because you probably need 1 to 2 people per person.
So even if they got 20 and then the rest was CGI, that's still, you're still looking at 20 hours in a makeup set, in a makeup chair. So I think to cut on cost, we'll give you one major scene. We'll give you this one scene full of infected, and then we'll show an infected here and there. There you just have to hire one makeup artist for that, right?
Right.
And I think that's the reason why they did it, is for the budget reason, because we still got the story. We still felt the game without seeing a lot of infected. But I know a lot of people who are like, man, I kind of wish they showed us more infected. I kind of wish we saw more of the clickers, which we did see. We just didn't see as much as the video game. Because the video game, man, that's like, this one game, the first episode of the game took 4 hours.
Wow.
And here we are, a total runtime of, like, the longest one was episode 1, which is an hour and 20 minutes. We sat here and probably watched close to 10 hours of The Last of Us, which the video game is probably a lot longer.
Yeah.
So,
sure.
yeah, I'm sure it was budget cost, but I still got the full effect without them showing us, the zombies. But I liked it too. I liked it. But that was one of my biggest gripes. And then episode 7, when they were in the mall and they turned on all the lights and they just had no fear in them with all this electricity on, and them not afraid of Fedra, them not afraid of attracting any more infected. I was like, wait, that was me. Even as that age, I would have been like, yo, man, there's too many lights. We got to cut these lights because,
Yeah.
And
I was scared the whole time that episode. I'm like, why are they making so much noise?
Exactly. Why are you making? And Riley was just like, oh man, no one's here. They already shut this place down. Don't worry about it. I'd have been like, I'm gonna worry about it.
Yeah. There's just too many places to hide, too much bad shit to happen. They were really careless.
Yeah. And like, those are just the small details, because you said in the beginning, you put yourself in these roles. You every time you play or watch these movies, you think of what Joe would do. And I was the same way. In every episode, I would think, what would I do? And that one thing I wouldn't have done was turn on all that electricity in the mall. I mean, I would have, because that's the only way you can get that full effect. Yeah, but in reality, you're trying to be as stealth as possible. You're trying to be, hidden, so that way no one can really hear you or see you. But for some reason, they did.
Yeah. They got lax and just let the guard down.
Yeah, but all in all, I love The Last of Us. And, I break it down to, you have your video game guys who watched it. You have the ones who just are into zombie movies, and the one who just likes movies, period. And I think you and I fall into, the category of liking movies and liking zombie movies. That's why we liked it. Then you got some video game people who are like, it could have been a little bit better. It could have been, whatever. I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it. And I think not playing the video game, I liked it even more. Because I think if I play the video game, like you said, you kind of gave Resident Evil that bad review in a movie because you expected a little bit more of the movie that they didn't give you. So to this one, me not playing the video game on this one, I kind of like it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's always hard when you're taking a video game, especially one that apparently really liked and loved by the gamers.
Yeah.
It's really hard to satisfy everyone.
Yeah.
And I think they did a pretty good job. There's obviously going to be people that aren't going to be happy with it, but I think overall, they showed a great amount of respect to the game, and they took creative license in a way that worked and didn't mess it up and didn't take away from it and added to it, if anything, because like I said, episode 3 was amazing.
Yeah.
So overall, I think it was great. And I think you didn't need to have played the game to enjoy the series. Like going into this, if you haven't watched it, don't worry about if you don't know the game, just watch it as is. And I think you'll enjoy it.
My other gripe about it is, it's exactly what the video game is. Story writing wise. Story writing, even the script was pretty much taken from the video game. So for video game heads who played part 2 of Last of Us, you kind of already know what's going to happen. Me being the type of person who wants to look and see what happens, I already know what's going to happen. And that's the only thing that kind of upsets me. It's like, if you guys are going to go off the video game, and there's kind of no spoilers in what's going to happen anymore. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone, but you kind of already know what's going to happen. So it's kind of like, God, that's the only thing I wish the creative writing part changed a little bit, but
Mhm.
I don't think they will because they didn't do it in this episode in this season.
Yeah.
The only an exception in episode 3, but I don't think they're going to change anything out.
No, I don't. And that's why I said it's going to be really interesting of how they do the age change with Bella Ramsey. So try to make her older, just leave her as is, and I don't think anyone would really care, to be honest, because she's that good of a performer.
Yeah. I mean, all they got to do is put a little makeup on her. I mean, in this season, no makeup except for the zombie blood and the black eye. But if they aged her a little bit, put a little, make her look a little bit more conservative in the way she dresses, then they can make her look 25 or whatever she is in the video in the video game.
Just don't use one of those bad filters that, when she turns, it's like you're going to see a regular face really quick.
Jesus.
Because that's been done. It's been done in movies and it's been painfully obvious.
No Marvel filters. I saw my Facebook post from a year ago, and in Hawkeye, in one of the scenes where they're jumping off the bridge, and then if you pause it right at the right moment, it's their stunt doubles. And Marvel wasn't quick enough to just slap on their face over there. It's just one of those things where it's like, really, Marvel?
Yeah.
You make all this money and...
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because there is one quick scene when they're in that barn in The Last of Us where Ellie climbs up the ladder, and it's painfully obvious that it's not Bella Ramsey climbing up the ladder. It's like some grown-ass woman, maybe even a man, but I found that funny because I was just like, that wasn't her.
She's only like 5'3". This lady was 6 foot tall.
Yeah, and just leaping up the ladder like no problem. Like, come on. But that's movie stuff. I enjoy that actually.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love things like that. I love the little things that we're not supposed to see, but we notice right away, and it becomes the biggest meme. It's like everybody on this set, because HBO was infamous for leaving Starbucks cups everywhere.
Yeah.
Everybody was looking for that little detail, but this is not Game of Thrones to where you can't see a Starbucks cup in Game of Thrones. But if you saw a Starbucks cup here,
well, they did make a mistake, and this was something we didn't touch on, and it's one of the first 3 episodes where we have a drone shot above like the forest that they're in, and you actually see production staff like under the tree line.
Wow.
I forgot to bring this up. I saw it afterwards actually. But so the infamous HBO, they either were too lazy to cut that part out. It's really quick, or they just didn't care to. But that's what you get with it's when you're watching an HBO movie or series, just keep your eyes peeled for Easter eggs or Starbucks cups or McDonald's or something.
Yeah. No, but I can't wait. I can't wait for the next episode. I can't wait for the next season for The Last of Us. I like it. I like where it's going. I like where it's headed. Bella Ramsey came out of nowhere with this character as Ellie. We all know what Pedro Pascal can do. Shout out to him. And, again, Father of the Year. I sent you that picture of him on a horse with Grogu and Ellie riding that horse. It's going to be Father of the Year. I'll tell you that right now.
And I sent Eric the one of the letters switched up. Instead of The Last of Us, it was The Lust of Ass. A photoshopped huge badonka on Pedro Pascal. I thought it was pretty funny.
My coworker calls him Zaddy. And I'm like,
oh yeah. He's
Zaddy.
He's definitely trending right now. Did you see his Starbucks? Speaking of Starbucks, did you see his Starbucks order that was spotted on TikTok?
No. Well, I deleted TikTok for Lent, so.
Well, yeah. Oh, good, smart. Okay. Yeah. Well, this was actually I saw it on Instagram, but there all these things are crossing over, and I guess he was caught leaving a Starbucks, and someone had stopped him really quick. I don't know if it was a fan or paparazzi or what, but he was holding a Starbucks in his hand and had the receipt on there. So of course these internet sleuths and nosy people had to pause it and zoom in, and it is I'm not even sure the name of it, but a quintuple, or like basically a 5 espresso thing with extra ice and 6 shots of coffee, and it's a venti size.
Wow.
So it's basically a gigantic espresso with shots of coffee in it. So of course the internet was going crazy. Like, dude, if I drank that, I'd have a heart attack. And like, I would like to assume that he just takes shots of it throughout the day because that is just insane. Like, and it's but
No
that was going
creamer,
viral.
no creamer, nothing. It was just
No creamer, just
wow.
black, straight, and bleh, I don't know. It was like liquid cocaine.
Well,
But he's Chilean, so who knows? That's probably how they like it out there.
He's like, hey, if you want me to play these characters, this is what I have to drink.
Yeah,
you
seriously.
know, you don't know how hot it gets under this Mandalorian mask that I have to wear for 12 hours.
We don't see
a
him.
day.
He's like, his eyes are wired when he's in the Mandalorian mask.
Oh man, but this is fun. This is cool, man. This is the longest podcast video me and Joe's done in a while. So for you guys who actually stays to the end, thank you for catching up and thank you for watching with us. We'll come back with the next episode and we'll let you guys know what we're going to talk about. We did say we were going to jump on Joe's music. Twisted Points available on Bandcamp right now. He's under a new name. He's called Joey Nomad. You can buy the album there. It's still I still listen to it. And again, this one right here is still my favorite. It's called Did It For You. Don't listen to this when you're alone because Joe likes to put little like someone speaking out of nowhere. And I was at work and I had one AirPod on and I was listening to it. And then all of a sudden like, oh, like it. I'm like, what's that coming from? Kind of freaked me out, but it's a cool album. Definitely download it. Twisted Points, Joey Nomad changed his name. He's not Huge Hefner or Huge Beats or
he's still Huge Beats, but officially going by Joey Nomad.
Also Joe Mama.
Yeah,
that's his name. I'm gonna find that. I told you I'm gonna make that your new ringtone. But until next time, thank you guys for jumping on. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for being part of this show. Until next time, we are the Ordinary Joes.
Peace.
See ya.
You're listening to the Ordinary Joes podcast